Okay, today we've got a 2005 Dodge Ram 1500. We have an exhaust manifold leak. It looks as though we have 3 exhaust manifold bolts broken. So we're going to put it up on the lift here, and we're going to see if we can't get it fixed and maybe get some information out there for someone who might have the same problem and the easiest way to get to it and fix it. Okay, so I've been told that the easiest way to get to the exhaust manifold is to remove the wheel and go in right through here, and we're going to remove these bolts on this inner liner, the fender well liner right here. We're going to remove the bolts on it, and that should give us access to the exhaust manifold right there. You can see some broken bolts right back there. And we should be able to get in there and get everything we need to do pretty easily. Let's see how that works for us. Okay, so I have determined that these are 5/16 screws. And we're just going to take them out like this. And we're going to take them loose all the way around. Get them all loosened up first so that we know we got it ready to come out. And then we're going to go around and loosen them up and pull them out. These are actually Torx screws right here. Looks to me like they'll have to come out as well. You'll want to pay attention that back here, behind the wheel and to the top above here, you got 2 here, 1 back here. That will have to be loosened out, removed as well. We have another one right here I just seen in the front. It will have to come out. Okay, it turned out these Torx screws here only bolt this piece on. There's nothing there. You don't have to remove these. They were T30s, but I did find another bolt up top, way up here. I didn't notice it before. I had to remove it. And then we have this for our anti-lock brake system. You should just be able to push this out. This isn't a tight piece. It'll push right out. You just may have to get a screwdriver behind it. There it went. Let's pull it right out. And then this inner liner should pull right out. May have to bend it a little bit. It's very flexible. It shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to need both hands to do it though, so I'll be right back. Okay, it just had to have 2 hands to get it out of there. And there you see it. It is definitely easy to get out. And look right here. We have an exhaust manifold right in front of us, right easy to work on. All the bolts are right there. The broken bolts are right here on this 1, 2, and I think there's another one over here somewhere. Maybe broken, maybe not. It don't look like it. But this thing pops like a sewing machine going down the road. The more you accelerate, of course, you can see where it was popping out past the gasket. The gasket really didn't go bad, but I'm going to replace the gaskets anyway, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of penetrating oil on these bolts, because we want to see if we can get them out of there as easy as possible. Let them soak just a few minutes while I get my ratchet and such ready, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've looked it over, and as it turns out, these bolts out here, which have the extra screws on them, are for a heat shield. The heat shield is not on this manifold. I bought this truck brand new in 2006. So actually 2005 is the model of the truck, but 2006 is when I bought it in January. So these are 13 millimeter and these are 10 millimeter. And back here on the flange, the backside of those bolts are 9/16. So those have been soaking a few minutes. I've already broken this one loose. They're breaking loose pretty easy. Hopefully my studs are broke off long enough back here that I can get them out pretty easily with channel locks, but we'll see in a minute. So in taking these flange bolts out, you'll notice that the top nuts are supposed to be captive. It's got a thin piece of metal that holds the nut. I'll probably have to use channel locks to hold that. It's a square nut, but the thin piece of plastic or thin piece of metal on here that was supposed to hold it in place to keep it from turning has broken. It is not as strong as you might think. Of course, this truck is 17 years old. I am probably most likely going to have problems with this bottom one too. In which case, I will hold it with channel locks and still be able to back it out, no problem. Okay, so as I was saying, this top nut retainer did not work well at all. However, the bottom one did. It worked fine. It's right here. It pulls off. This is designed to hold the nut in place while you loosen the bolt. There's the bolt. It came out just fine. The top one did not. I may end up fabricating a new one to put back on the top. If I do that, I'll show you how I did it. Thank you. Okay, these bolts all broke loose pretty easily all the way around. This one under here, because of the upper control arm connection and the spacers, I ended up having to use a short extension, a swivel, and a short 10mm socket. But I was able to get in there pretty easily then. And got it broke loose. I'm gonna go ahead and pull them off and remove the broken studs. Okay, there's our exhaust manifold. It is off. These bolts came out pretty good all the way across. But you will notice that this is an aluminum head. You want to be very careful when you're cleaning this surface. You don't want to use anything like a heavy scraper. A brass scraper might do well, but you want to be very careful about cleaning that surface because you will damage it and then you'll have an exhaust leak whether you put new gaskets on or not. I noticed that back here I have broken off bolts that I'm going to have to work to get out. They look like they're broke off below the surface. I may have to drill and tap them. It looks as if I've got room here to do it, so here we go. I'll show you what I do. Okay, so I ended up cleaning this with a soft bristle brass brush and some carburetor choke cleaner just to get it cleaned up where I can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to punch the center of those bolts, drill them, and then I'm going to try to use left-hand drill bits. I have some easy outs, but I think I might be able to get it with a left-hand drill bit if I get it drilled to the right size, and they should extract right out. Okay, so I drilled an 1/8" hole after I punched it in that bolt head. And then I used a left-hand thread bit, or left-turn bit, just slightly larger than 1/8", and it bit in and backed it right out. I've pre-drilled this bottom one. Now I'm going to use the bit to see if I can get it out. And it should just come right out and be back in business. And there they are. It took about 10 minutes to get them both out with left-handed drill bits. Popped right out. Nice clean holes, no damaged threads. I'm going to finish cleaning up the rest of this head, clean up the manifold, and we'll reinstall. Okay, this is my new gasket set. Felpro MS93217. It says right there, Chrysler 4.7 liter. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of the video, but this is not the Hemi. This is the 4.7. We're going to put it together. Okay, so we got it pretty clean right here. It's nice and smooth. No gouges in my aluminum. A little bit in the edges right there. That's just where it cleaned it up. It looks fine. They're all smooth. Now we're going to clean up the manifold. As you can see, let me get this light over here. Okay, there's the one that was bolts were broken on. Okay, it was blowing out there. This one still has some gasket material. This one here's the gasket material is gone, but it still needs cleaned. So I'm gonna clean these up, and then we'll look at them again before we put them on. Okay, these have all been polished and cleaned up now. Nice and clean. Don't see any physical damage on the flange. This looks really good in here. Let it focus a minute. Looks really good in there. I don't think we'll have any exhaust leaks there. The head is clean. You might see a little bit of pitting right there in the metal. That is not going to be an issue because these gaskets have a coating, I believe it's lead on there, and that is going to seal any kind of small pits such as those. They're pretty smooth, they look good. I'm going to reinstall. Okay, these gaskets have these elongated notches, openings in the bottom. They are designed so that you can put in your two bottom bolts. You can see that one's in right there, and I've got this one in under here. Can't really see it, but it's right there. And that allows the gasket to drop in and sit right exactly where it needs to be so that you can put the other bolts in. So I've got the manifold sitting in place. I've got those two bolts loosely just started in there so that I can put my gasket in. I'll start all bolts, make sure they all line up before I go to torque them into position. And we'll do that right now. Okay, we've got these bolts in. They're all snugged up. Now they'll be torqued. They are an 8mm with a 1.25 thread pitch. It's 18 foot-pounds of torque, starting on the center two, work your way out. Okay, passenger side went back together well. Everything's bolted back in. All my bolts inside my fender liner are done. Now, we're gonna come around here and we're gonna do the driver's side. I've already removed the bolts out of the fender liner. If you look up in there, you'll see there's a broken stud right there. So we're gonna find out how bad that is and fix it as well. Okay, as you can see, I have sprayed my flange bolts, got them soaking. Got a broken stud there. It looks like the only one. We're going to pull it and see. Alright, well you can see this stud here is broken off out long. I can get a hold of that no problem. The rest of them are all good, no more broken studs. I do want to clean up and see if I can tell where that oil's coming from. It looks like it might have seeped out through the valve cover, but the valve cover is tight. Alright, I'm going to clean this up and see what I can find out. Okay, we got this side all cleaned up. Got the manifold laying back right there. I'm going to start my bottom bolts and then lay my gasket in and bolt it up. Okay, just like on the other side, we've got the bottom bolts at each end on the manifold so that the gasket will slide in these notches. And if you'll notice, this gasket has an extra port on this end. Make sure that it goes in correctly. It should line right up perfect. And there it is. Falls right into place, held by the bolts. All we have to do now is put in the rest of the bolts. I've been using blue Loctite, medium grade Loctite on the bolts to ensure that they do not work loose, which that's not usually a problem anyway. Just put the bolts in. Okay, we're all torqued in at 18 pounds per square inch. See the new gasket in there. Now bolt up the flange, and then we can put the inner liner back in the fender well. Here's a little pointer. You can very easily get these flanges crooked if you tighten one side up too quickly, too far ahead of the other. You want to pull up nice and even, pull that flange in nice and even. If you go crooked, you're just going to cause wear problems, and it's going to be another exhaust leak. You're going to have to replace that pipe. Got our fender liner back in. Manifolds in. Reinstall my wheel and take for a ride.